Good afternoon. Thanks for joining. We still have some more people hopping on right now, so I'm going to give it a few more minutes for more people to show up. My name is John Singleton, and I'm joined today with my colleague Paul McNally. We are support for ControlPoint, and I'll just let some more attendees show up. I still see some more people showing up, so I'll wait a few more minutes. Okay, I know everybody's time is valuable, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name again is John Singleton, and again, my colleague Paul McNally is also on this webinar. So thanks for coming. And we'll run through the presentation, and then afterwards, or actually during the presentation, if you want to type any questions into the chat window, Paul will be able to answer those questions, and then we'll just open up for general questions at the end. So today's topic, making ControlPoint accessible from within SharePoint. This is the first quick take for the ControlPoint product. So as you can imagine, we're probably presenting something that we know a lot of people have interest in. We get a lot of calls about this because there's one or two little gotchas that they're hard to find if you don't know where to look. But the process itself is extremely simple. So let's talk about what it means to make it accessible from within SharePoint. So come over here. We've got ControlPoint loaded. And let's go to the settings for a particular site. And here we have, under the site settings, the ControlPoint actions and ControlPoint analysis, so reports and actions. Also under site actions, you can have launch the ControlPoint for site admins. Let's do that. So this is right into a different looking interface for your end users. The audience for these are your site collection administrators. You don't necessarily want to send them to the full ControlPoint. You want them to be able to go into their site settings and just use ControlPoint from the context of where they are. Whereas over in the full version of ControlPoint, you've got to navigate through all these web apps and, all right, where is it, where is it, where is it? Your users can be right in their site collection or their site and go into the site settings and say, yep, this is where I can do that ControlPoint stuff in the context of where they are. So, for instance, if you wanted to manage permissions, you could go Site Actions, ControlPoint Permissions Management. Where is this managing permissions? Well, in the context of the site that they just launched it from. So you leave the navigation part of ControlPoint. You take that away from the users, and the context is always, where are you now? The permissions management is just a wizard to walk you through some questions. I want to grant permissions, add users to SharePoint groups. It's going to then say, walk you through the wizard. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? So that's just another way of getting to this tool from the context of where you're at. Let's go back over here. So how do you get these in here? All of these options. Well, the way you do it is you follow the instructions, and if we go down to page 34, here's the first part of the instructions, which is going to instruct you to, on the server where you install ControlPoint, to go to the Hive template layouts, ControlPoint custom, and it's going to ask you to open a file called webnew.config. So let's go over here, and here we are, all the way down to the Hive template layouts, ControlPoint custom. Here's that webnew config. And if we edit this, oops, what the directions are going to tell you is to put in the server name : port number, or if you're using SSL or host header and you have a friendly URL that you set up, you can use that too. Let's go back over here. In this case, this server is actually called Kendall, and ControlPoint is on 1818. So where's the gotcha? Let's go back to the instructions. Save the updated file as web.config. So a lot of times people come in and they add in the server name, and they save it. Okay, Paul was just informing me that he wasn't able to see my screen, so I paused it and I started it back up again. Hopefully you all can see the screen. So getting back to the gotcha, we tell you to edit this web new config, and then we say save the updated file as web config. We should make it actually a lot more bolder, saying make sure you save it as just web.config, because the file that you're actually editing is called webnew.config. The reason why we don't just have a web.config file there is for the next time you upgrade, we'll overwrite the webnew config, or in a new install we'll put it there. But we'll leave that web config alone. So this is a one and done thing. You just have to make sure you save it as web.config, and it's saved, and we'll never overwrite it even when you upgrade. All right, next step. Repeat steps 1 through 4 on each web front end in the farm. So we've done it on this web front end, and that's great. If someone uses any of these launches, tries to launch the actions from this server, great. This server has the web config. On all the other web front ends, the template layouts ControlPoint custom folder with a web config exists, but you have to go there and modify on all those other web front ends. You have to go there and do the same thing. And be careful to save it as web.config again. Those are the real gotchas, is when you either don't save it as web.config or you neglect to go to the other web front ends. That's what we get a lot of calls about. The rest of the procedure is really, really simple. So what you do is come back over to ControlPoint. All right, you see this one's already populated. Let's look at this partner's site. Go into settings, and they're not there. And they're not under site actions. So how do we do this? Well, we use ControlPoint. The features themselves are hidden features, so you really have to use ControlPoint to do it. So let's walk through that. Right-click, configuration, manage site features. Okay, so we want to check this box here for show hidden. Now we're seeing all those features, even the hidden ones. And the 3 items that we want are all start with the name ControlPoint, so let me sort by name. And let me come down here. Select those 3, activate the selected, run now. And here's the report saying this feature's been activated, activated, activated. Very good. So let's go back over and verify. And there we have it. And we have them up here. And let's just make sure they work okay. And they do. And if we wanted to break it, we could come back over here and say rename. Save it. Come back over to ControlPoint. Try to use it again. Oopsie. That's what we get calls on. We get those errors, and people say, well, I know I did everything in the guide. I edited that config file, and I can see the features. They're there. What could be wrong? Well, it just didn't get saved as web.config, and it's as simple as that. But we get that call a lot. Let's change it back. Try that again. Much better. Okay, as the title implies, quick take. This was a pretty quick session. We're open for any questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to enter it into the chat section. This This session I'm recording this session, and we are going to make it available, so if anybody showed up late and said, oh, I guess I missed the meat of this, it'll all be there. We'll send out a link to everybody so that they know where to find the recording. It was a pretty straightforward topic, and I see that we're not having any questions. So here's another question. Does anybody have any topics that they would like to see covered for future Quick Take? Because this Quick Take sessions are going to be we're going to do it on a regular basis. Okay. Nobody's got any future topics that they'd like to hear about or questions about this presentation? If you happen to think of a topic after this is over, you can feel free to send it to email_support@metalogix.com, and we'll take it into consideration for our future Quick Take. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. We got a good turnout. We had 56 attendees, which is good. Thanks very much for being here, and we'll go ahead and close the session. Thank you very much, everybody.